everyone. Hey, Ninja. The more you see, the less you understand. The more you look, the less you see. The lesser you even understand. All sorts of things that are going on. This whole Dangote's refinery is just, something else. Like yesterday, we were even having a discussion with some people, and they were like, well, someone was like, oh no, he's not going to support Dangote. What Dangote has done to other people, other businesses. I just say yes. We know Dangote hasn't been the best of, business people. He has a lot of things. Even Bua the other day brought out all the things that he had done to ensure that his business collapsed and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is about injustice, and you cannot wait and say that you will allow injustice to happen because you don't like someone. And so this particular issue I just mentioned brought me to an article, a statement that was put out, whether you call it a statement or a tweet, by David Hundeyin. David Hundeyin, also he's not a fan of Dangote. There's no love lost between them. But this is what he had to say, and he said, and I'm going to read out how the tweet he put out. He said, "I debated long and hard whether to do this publicly, but I think a message needs to be sent to a group of external interests working in tandem with the internal interests described in the quoted tweet, to counteract the interests of 500 million West Africans. A message that at whatever level we exist, we take our destiny seriously, and we are not to be trifled with." David Hundeyin continued and said, "Last week I received an 800,000 offer from an international NGO called Dialogue Earth, formerly known as China Dialogue Trust, to write an article essentially saying that Dangote Refinery is terrible for the environment because something environmental concerns, something climate change, something energy transition policy, something COP28. The unstated but clearly implied thrust of the brief was for a prominent local voice to put their name on an article that is an argument or a premise for the Nigerian government to kill the refinery based on its energy transition commitments and environmental policy. This conclusion wasn't immediately apparent when they reached out to me, but I suspected where it was heading, and I quickly accepted the offer so that I could see the brief and obtain hard evidence. I've attached screenshots from the brief below." So he accepted. So first of all, the thing that I even found here is that they want to 800,000 naira is around $500. $500 is what you are offering to such a particular thing. And of course, I mean, there are people who will go for such a thing and do this kind of thing. It's how this I just find the offer so disrespectful. At least if you want me to do something bad, you understand, something illegal, criminal, whatever it is, offer some good money. Let's be talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or billions of dollars or whatever. Then I can look at you and say, okay, no, or whatever. But $500. So let me continue. It says basically this London-based NGO is headed by Sam Gill, an Oxford professor, and is funded by several American intelligence fronts such as Ford Foundation and Climate Works, which is blacklisted in India for funding organizations working against India's national interest. For whatever reason, it is now quietly mobilizing a resistance campaign against what it describes as Nigeria's first refinery. Apparently, the status quo of Nigeria's largest oil producer, having no functioning oil refinery to benefit from its own oil, was not a problem for Dialogue Earth and the American CIA fronts who fund it, according to David Hundeyin. The human poverty caused by exporting this raw material and importing refined fuel was not bad for the environment. Also, the fact of European refineries regularly blending West African fuel cargoes with toxic waste and sulfur content 200 times the European legal limit, leading to asthma, bronchitis, and eye infections in West Africa, was also not bad for the environment. But Nigeria having a refinery that will win West Africa off import dependency on those European refineries and allow West Africa control the sulfur content of its own fuel is where Dialogue ends and its founders draw the line. That one is bad for the environment, and David Hundeyin should write an article calling for the refinery to be shut down or limited. So this is David Hundeyin still writing this. And I saw an article, though I didn't read it, I saw the headline where it said, where they alert it, the headline, I didn't read, so this is the disclaimer, I didn't read the article, that I've not done a video on it, that's why I haven't done a video on it. And it just says that OPEC is saying that, European market is going to suffer when Nigeria, this Dangote refineries comes on and stuff like that, which is something that is being reiterated here also by David Hundeyin. So David Hundeyin continues and says, I'm reading from the tweet that he did. I'm putting this out there publicly so that nobody will henceforth use the term conspiracy theory when it is pointed out for the umpteenth time that there are American and European states and private interests that are heavily invested in keeping Africa exactly as poor as it is, and that they regularly push levers most of us do not even know exist to make sure that this status quo is protected. These people believe that Africans should not exist or have nice things in the world. Apparently, the sole purpose of our existence is to enhance their experience of the planet and all that it has to offer. David Hundeyin continued by saying, it is because of them that I have to make a public spectacle out of this, even though I know that doing this is probably going to cost someone their job. The message needs to be passed that as poor as we are, you cannot convince us to campaign for the elongation of our poverty by commissioning $500 hard jobs in the hope that we'll be greedy enough to only see the money and ignore the bigger picture of what we can clearly see you are trying to do. I will reiterate, according to David Hundeyin, something I've said multiple times. I'm not a believer in the religious faith called climate change /saving the environment. I care exactly as much about the environment as do the rich white people who destroyed it to begin with. I firmly believe that if what it takes for Africa to industrialize is for it to burn so much fossil fuel that snow stops falling in Wisconsin and it starts raining concentrated sulfuric acid in Doncaster, it is not too big price for Europe and North America to pay. It is certainly not bigger than the price Africa had to pay for Europe and North America to develop. It is and will continue to be 100% our prerogative to determine what to do with our hydrocarbons. It is not the rich white men hiding behind these climate advocacy NGOs who will tell us what to do with our energy reserves and by what means we are allowed to escape the poverty that they engineered for us. I might not be a fan of Aliko Dangote, said David Hundeyin, or his monopolistic business practices, or as is well known. But I'm also smart enough to know when rich white men in DC, Houston, Rotterdam, and London and try to use me as a marionette in their 400-year-old colonizer games. If you are reading this and you are one of the rich white men whose economic interests are threatened by Nigeria refining its own oil, you should come out and fight Aliko Dangote by yourself. Or at least find a much stupider African to do your dirty job. There's plenty of those. It will never be me. So this is the tweet that David Hundeyin did, and then he brought us screenshots of those things that have gone on. And for me, on the issue of climate change and all of that, I do believe there is climate change. There are issues that are happening, but at the same time, every country, every continent have to go at its own pace on how it affects. Because in Nigeria, in West Africa, in Africa, people are dying of hunger. You can't be telling someone who is dying of hunger that they should be focused on climate change. We need to get out of poverty. We need to get out of the hunger. We need to get out of the suffering. And so, yes, like I've always said to some people, yes, that climate, this thing, but there are more pressing issues. Like if you don't handle that, they are worse than that climate, change kind of issue. One of the things for me, like I look at, like governors, for example, like Edo State, I'm like, if for example, I'm like either a governor or a president in Nigeria, the things that I would do is to make sure that every farmer is connected to a market. He must not use more than 4 hours to get to a market. If you are farming, your farm must not. So if I'm going to do roads that enter and go and meet those farmers to put them together and bring markets to them, I'm going to do it. Yeah, some people might say that, oh, it's going to destroy the forest, it's going to destroy. Those are the chances that I'll be willing and ready to take, and take responsibility for them. Because I would rather have my people have food. I would rather have my people come out of poverty. Then we can now all collectively fight and preserve the environment. I can't have people dying. I'm talking about preserving, the environment. And in putting all of these roads down, most of these places have been taken over by insecurities, where some people, these places they call ungoverned spaces, some people are there, they're the ones who have taken over those places. We will do those roads to you. We'll be able to come and meet you where you are, and our military fight you, and all of that. So at the end of the day, really, there's so much, and this whole thing, Africa, my country, we'll triumph. We'll triumph by the grace of God.